The one and only Toni Morrison is here. She is one of our greatest living writers. She won the Pulitzer Prize for Fiction in 1988 for her novel Beloved. 5 years later, she became the first African-American woman to win the Nobel Prize for Literature. President Obama has said that reading her novel, Song of Solomon, taught him how to be. He awarded her the nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, in 2012. Morrison's new novel is called God Help the Child. I am pleased to have my friend Toni Morrison back at this table. Welcome.
Thank you.
This has been described as fable-like. Is it fable-like?
Not to me, but not to me. I mean, what? Bad, reinvention, good. I guess that's fable-like.
Yeah.
But I hope it's much more complicated than that.
Well, I'm sure it is. But it's the first one that you've written with a contemporary setting since Tar Baby,
That's
1981.
True. Yeah, that's true.
Why did you go back to contemporary setting?
Well, I was a little alarmed about doing it. I wrote Home, although I had started that book earlier, because the contemporary world was hard for me to grasp. Yeah. I didn't have a hook. It seemed slippery. And
it's always changing.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to be 6 months from now.
So when I finally got a way to talk about it through the confusion of race and color and class, then I could do it. Then I felt I could do it that way.
When you got through
when I began to
race
think,
and class?
When I began to think of what was significant now in this 2007, 8, whatever, period, one of the enormous topics was race, color, shades of color, reactions to it.
What's the difference in race and color?
Well, color is a substitute for racism.
Yes. Race
is just human beings. Right. Color has some... There are privileges to certain kinds of color. These are social constructs. These are not inventions of science, that is, descriptions that are scientific. It's things human beings think up for good reasons. Some profitable, some just personal. You know, thinking of how can you feel really, really good about yourself if there's nothing to be othered. If you can't separate yourself from something that you're convinced is lower than yourself.
Are these troubling times?
Yeah. These are. I think it's, I'm not sure they're all that different, but it's obvious now. It's very obvious that the times are troubled. Mm-hmm. And a little cowardly, I think.
How do you think cowardly?
Well, when we think just about the media and the journalistic stories, television stories about young or middle-aged black men being shot by police, what astonishes me is not so many, because there's always been a lot, it's just never been newsworthy, is the obvious cowardice of the police. I don't mean all police, but those that we hear about. How are you afraid of a man running away from you? How are you afraid of somebody standing in a grocery store on a phone with a toy gun that you could buy in the store? How could you be afraid of a little boy? And who are these people who call 911? Who are they? You look out the window and you see a kid with a toy gun and you get on the phone. I like that policeman who was chasing a guy who had killed some people and turned around, faced the policeman and said, "Shoot me, shoot me." And the policeman wouldn't. He said, "I'm not going to shoot you. I'm not going to shoot you." He kept saying it. The guy obviously wanted to be shot, suicide by a cop, but he didn't do it. Then finally took the guy down. But then I realized that that policeman had been in the military. He was not a coward.
Had different training.
Entirely different. He was brave. He stood up. But these guys running around, just popping people over and over again.
How can we change that?
We have to change the police training.
Yeah.
It can be
that's
done.
the obvious.
Oh, that's clear.
Yeah.
And, perhaps, I was wondering the same thing during the civil rights, parades when Martin Luther King was around. What can we do? What can we do? Well, in that instance, you had somebody who could actually talk to somebody in the administration.
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that that can happen now, in spite of the fact that the President of the United States is a black man.
You don't think there's anybody can talk to him?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's aware of it, very keenly
clearly
aware.
is, yeah. I think, he not only that, he's actually aware of what you have just said, as far as I understand it, and I heard, by listening to him. I think in some of the things that he supports, he's very much interested in the plight of young black men.
Yeah, very much, yes.
Because they're too caught up in the judicial process. It's alarming numbers.
Yeah.
And it's like they disappear into the legal process, whether it's courts or prisons or, And I'm interested in the subject, but it's
that whole, everything we do that's confrontational in this country is deemed a war.
Yeah.
A war on women, a war on Christmas, a war on drugs, no 3 times you're out. There was this enormous pressure to change society, I suppose. And it, coupled with prison for profit, it just distorted everything.
Tell me who Lula Ann Bridewell is.
Lula Ann Bridewell is a
Came out of the
beaten up little girl, sort of personally threatened by her mother, who was very upset when she saw her child because of her color. She's very, very black, really black, and this is what we used to call a high yellow woman, who was she could be looking at, I don't know, a toad as far as she's concerned. And she even thought, I think, a little bit about giving her away or smothering her. She doesn't. She tries to take care of her, but she believes, to protect her from people who will perhaps feel the same way she does. And in so doing, she disables her. And until the girl can use that very thing, deep blackness, to her advantage, she's sort of a pitiful person, I think, sad, aggressive, young, and it takes the book for her and her lover, who is also traumatized, to figure it out and become a 3-dimensional person.
Yeah, but this whole book is about the bond between Sweetness and Lula.
Most of it, yeah.
Yes, most of it.
Yeah. Sweetness opens it and she closes it.
Yes.
She learns a little bit, but she's incorrigible.
In the New York Times review of the book, Kara Walker writes that you are asking the reader to consider what happens to children who cannot forget the torment of an excruciatingly painful childhood. To repeat, you're asking the reader to consider what happens to children who can't forget the torment of an excruciatingly painful childhood.
It's true. I think we all have some level of recollection of maybe not serious trauma, but unpleasantness, and someone who should have loved us who didn't. And we sometimes think we've gotten over it, but many times it's distorting and shadowing our behavior. And it's debilitating. And, you have regrets, but you do something about it. And I think, as in the book, the best thing is to stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about somebody else, start taking care of somebody else, move it out. It's not always about you.
You say that you didn't appreciate the hierarchy of color until you went to Howard.
That's true, yeah.
So what did you learn about the hierarchy of color?
That it was more convenient, easier, more comfortable the lighter your skin was.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
You could get into certain places and so on. And then there's a middle ground and there's some others. There were levels that I could even distinguish in sororities, schools, departments, etc., where the obedience was and where the adoration was, and the scorn for some people who were not light-skinned.
So how did you experience that?
Very differently.
Yeah.
I didn't know about it. I thought my little hometown was the way the whole world was. And the hierarchy in my hometown was almost the opposite, you know. So the only thing worse than that was Washington, D.C. I mean, out there was serious business, you know. It was segregated in a very strenuous way so that I felt safe at Howard. But it was different. I didn't know these grades and levels of color, you know, class, all of that. I didn't know that. And I learned.
Do you because you are accomplished, a Nobel Prize for Literature, what you mean to the world of letters in America, do you fully comprehend that, and do you fully believe that it's justified?
Well, there are really two people. My name is Chloe Wofford.
Yes.
And Toni Morrison is a name I acquired as an adult. And they're not two different people. Toni Morrison thinks about what you just said.
Yes.
Whether or not she's important in the world, and she has medals,
Right.
and she gets attention,
Right.
and that's fine. She can handle that. The other person, the Chloe person, is the one who writes and thinks and invents and is wholly uninterested in
Toni Morrison.
Yes. Likes what she does.
So the talent is with Chloe,
Oh, yeah.
and Toni is the sort of
The one outside.
the wrapping, the package.
That's right, that's right.
The beating heart is Chloe.
They're both nice, by the way.
Yeah, we like them both.
They just do different things.
Yeah. And you're happiest being Chloe.
Oh, very much.
Are you
so.
really?
Yeah.
See, I think you like it.
Like what?
I think you like being Toni Morrison.
Toni Morrison,
Yeah.
can make you think that.
Right.
She's
right.
good at it.
Okay. Because she's good at it. She can make you think she likes it because she's good at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, because she looks like it. She has all the indicia of it.
Yes, they
She's
are.
admired by people who matter.
Well, it's not all theater. Some of it's
Yeah.
really genuine, depending on, circumstances and the people she's relating to.
Yeah.
I was saying to somebody earlier that I'm really exhausted talking about myself. Really exhausted. However,
Yes.
what I get to get,
Yeah.
the Chloe in me gets to get,
Right. Is
signing books for readers, going to the 92nd Street Y, going to Politics and Prose, and reading a little bit, talking a little bit, and then have people line up and I sign their books. I don't see readers normally.
so you see people at the other end.
Yes.
That's
And
great.
whatever. Now, that I like.
I know you're always surprised at me when people say, "I watch your show or read your book," or You know, because it gives you a face.
That's right.
In a sense of, you know.
It's good.
What you don't like is when they remind you of a show you did 5 years ago.
I know.
Or like saying to you, I love it, but I mean, you know, it was Beloved. God, I love Beloved. You know.
It's interesting. People have different tastes.
Yeah.
I thought book A or B was going to be a knockout, and it wasn't.
Right.
Then I thought something else, and it wasn't. It's different ways in which people read. It's like music, you know, the songs you loved when you were 16 that you can't bear now, and so on.
When did you start writing this?
About 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Did the death of your son Slade affect you?
Oh,
no. No, I know it affected you, period. But I mean, did this book, because it's about parent-child.
Isn't it? He died when I wrote Home, and I think I dedicated it to him. This one I just said for you, whoever you is.
Well, who did you intend for you to be?
Doesn't it say that in there?
No, I'm looking. For you.
Yeah.
You know, you could say for you, and you know who you are.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. You know who you are.
But how did that affect your writing?
It didn't.
The loss. It didn't.
No.
Are you saying that because you're being protective?
Maybe. The death of my son is so powerful, so endless, so without closure, so significant and important. I have every anticipation that it will always be this way. Will always be this way. So it's, you know, it's beyond being affected. It's like losing arms.
That's all.
And
You'll
nothing.
be reminded of it the rest of your life.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
If you lose your arm or if you lose your son.
Yes. And it should be that way. As long as he's dead. Why should I forget?
You're interested in writing without the white gaze.
Absolutely.
That's what you're interested in.
That's what I'm interested in.
No white gaze.
No white gaze. You know, I did a play with Peter Sellers.
Yes.
Desdemona.
Yeah.
And I told him I would only do Desdemona if I could get rid of Iago. And Jason told me, Jason Epstein, he said he's the whole
Jason
point.
Epstein, yes.
Yeah, right. He said he's the whole point. I said, I don't want him in there. He talks too much. Nobody tells him the truth. He's in every scene. Why is he dominating? The play is called Othello. Othello is never alone on stage. So if I could just get rid of this Iago, white guy, and concentrate on the Moor, Othello, we could get somewhere. And we did.
Was Jason your editor?
No, he was my boss.
He was your colleague at Random, or wherever. Which publishing house was it?
Well, I worked at Random, published at Knopf.
Right.
Bob Gottlieb
he was at
is
Random, right?
Yes,
right.
Jason's at Random. Bob Gottlieb is my editor at Knopf.
Even though you don't write about ballet, you don't.
No, he's flawless for me.
He's
really? Writing a biography
of himself.
Of himself.
His memoir biography.
Yes.
Well, what does he add to you, Bob Gottlieb?
Commas.
That's an old cliche.
Well, he does.
Is that what it is?
Well, he's always putting them in. I'm trying to have a certain sound, a certain music. I don't want breath here. I want breath over here.
Oh, and see, that's what you are, though.
Yes.
Because your writing has music.
Then I have to hear it.
And you have to hear it.
Yeah.
And do you hear it and then you can put it on the page, or if you put it on the page, you can hear it?
I hear it first.
That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear the...
Mm-hmm. You know, I signed up to do audio books, of my own.
Yes.
In the beginning, I didn't. Other people did that.
Right.
And then really good actresses. And then I never listened to them. And then once I did, by a really, really first-rate actress. And I thought, that's not right.
Yeah.
The words were there.
She's not hearing what I heard.
She's not hearing the... So then I did
them yourself.
I did them all myself.
Yeah, it takes about a month, doesn't it?
Oh, awful.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So, you're, what, 84 now?
84.
And proud of it?
Well, I guess I have no alternatives.
Yeah, no, you don't. Yeah.
That's what my sister said. She's a year and a half older. She said, what happened to us? I said, Lois, we got old. Yeah. And I said, and I think, God, I took such good care of you, body. What's the matter with you?
You said to your body?
I said to my body,
I took good care of you. Why are you treating me
Why
this way?
are you treating me this way? So I convinced her that it was just as well we stayed around because the alternative was death.
Yes. I mean, you prefer.
I prefer.
You prefer living with your body to the alternative.
That's right.
Separating yourself from your body.
Indeed, yes.
You said one thing, though, that one's world, as you get older, becomes smaller. Do you remember saying that? No, you don't remember saying that. And more insular as you age, basically, is what you said.
I wonder what I meant by
small.
Know.
Oh, well, I don't know. You said become smaller and more insular.
Well,
I think just as your circle.
That's true.
Yeah.
Your circle of friends becomes smaller.
Well, one thing that some people have said to me is that getting older, they no longer care whether somebody likes them. They only care about who they like.
That's probably true.
You know, because time hasn't.
It narrows to a certain kind of value.
It's not infinite in terms of your mind.
Yeah.
It's finite.
I remember saying when I turned 84 that I had 3 things to say. One was no. The other one was shut up.
Yes.
And the third one was get out.
No, shut up, get out. How about tell me more?
No.
Tell me more is mine.
Oh, look, a woman told me once, I think it was Jimmy Baldwin's mother. She said something I thought was a little sad.
Which was?
She said, all the good people have already been born.
Jimmy Baldwin's mother. All the good people have already been born. I don't understand what she meant.
She didn't seem to have much faith in the future.
Oh, I see. So she was making a judgment about
what was here.
The best ones are here, and
the best ones are here.
Those coming around are not quite as good as the ones that are already here. Did you know Jimmy Baldwin?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Did you know him well?
Well enough. I mean, I visited him in Europe and south of France.
He's living in Paris?
No, in the south of France.
Oh, he never lived in Paris?
I think he lived there at some point.
Yeah.
But he spent most of his time at St. Paul de Vence.
Yeah, I know St. Paul de Vence really well, yeah.
That's where his house was, and that's where I was. I mean, when I visited him.
Did you know Josephine Baker?
No.
You know, who else did you know in that expatriate community over there?
Nobody.
Any of the jazz artists that were there?
No. I didn't know anyone. I wish I had. Sidney Bechet.
Yes.
The most beautiful music there is. That was quite an exciting little group, now that I think about it.
Yeah, Paris is a different city, too.
Yeah.
Now. Doesn't have that same magic, I think. But as much as I love it. Since we're talking about 84, a recent article in Time speculated about your legacy. And it made comparisons with William Faulkner.
Makes sense.
Why does it make sense?
Because he had a relationship with black people that was very different from most of the other contemporary writers. Yeah. I don't mean he was affectionate or stupid or contemptible, but he was easy and clear. And also his language was explosive. And I don't know, the legacy thing, what I would hope is that at some point I would not be described as an African-American woman writer as though that were a category. Yes. I just want to be alphabetized. So you don't say William Tolstoy is a white male Russian.
Yes, I agree. I totally agree. Totally agree.
Which has nothing to do with rejecting any of those.
No.
It's just, that might happen too. It hasn't yet. And some of it is because African American writers want to say that. Look, I'm an African American, I can do this. And I understand that. But at some point, somebody's grandchildren are going to say...
Well, you're just saying, look, the comparison for me is with all writers, not any race or any particular defining, or even gender. It's not race, not gender, not anything. Just writer.
Writer.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Aren't you?
Oh, yeah. I remember being at an event, and I think it was Doctorow who was going to introduce me. E.L. Doctorow. Going to introduce to me. And he said wonderful things. He said, I don't think of Toni as a African-American writer. I don't think of her as a female writer. I think of her as, and he paused, and I said, white male writer. And everybody laughed. Yeah. But he was trying to say, I think, something along the lines that we just described. I would like that.
I think you've earned that.
You think so?
I do. It's great to see you.
It's always good to see you, Charlie.
I know. I look forward to whenever you may hear that you've got a book out. And you will never, ever, I'm telling you, I'm praying you and begging you. You have to forgive me because I stupidly had something else to do and did not go with you. And so
that's why I'm going to hold that against you.
To the Nobel ceremony.
You would have had such fun.
I know.
Oh, well.
It shows you how unwise I was. But it wasn't because of you. It was because I thought I had something that I needed to do.
I understand.
You know? And a wiser man would say, there is nothing you need to do that can compare with watching this person you love accept and receive a Nobel Prize. The book is called God Help the Child. God Help the Child. Toni Morrison. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.